Warm welcome, everyone. How are you guys doing? Let me know if you can hear me well. I just need to check the lighting settings here quickly. Alrighty, that's better, much better. So for some reason, I wanted to do the stream on my computer, but YouTube wouldn't let me for the setup reasons. So at least I can see the comments now. I think last week when I did the live stream, I wasn't for some reason able to see the comments properly, but now I can see the comments on my screen. I want to welcome everyone to today's live stream. Great to see you all. I want to reintroduce myself again. Please let me know in the comments whether you can hear me okay, whether the audio is fine. That's always useful for me to know whether the audio is working properly when I start a live stream. If the audio is not working properly, please let me know now so that we don't waste time of fixing everything. So please type it in the chat quickly if the audio is working. And other than that, we have a few. Linda can hear me. Okay, perfect. Thank you guys. Perfect. Thank you for that. Really appreciate it. Okay. Welcome to the live stream today. As usual, you can post your questions in the chat. I will answer a few questions that have already been posted beforehand on the channel, but I will also talk a little bit about, hi Michael, hi Min, hi Linda. Great to see you guys. Great to see some community members in here. Yeah, I will answer some of the questions that people have dropped on the kind of, what is it called? The community section on YouTube. We've had a couple of questions in there, so we will go through those questions. But also, as usual, you are more than welcome to put your questions in the chat if you have any, and then we'll go through the questions one by one. We have about half an hour, should be enough for us to get through all the questions and also talk about the 12 weeks program a little bit, which I've already seen that a couple of people from the 12 weeks program are in our live session today, which I'm very grateful for your support. So that's very, very nice to see some people here. Very brief introduction for some of you who might not know me. The channel is growing to over 45,000 subscribers. So therefore, some of you guys might not completely know me yet. My name is Frieda. That's the German pronunciation, Frieda. I am currently living in Berlin, Germany for the past 7-8 years. Yeah, 8 years now, this year, 8 years. And my personal story with tinnitus is I was born deaf in my left ear. I mean, sorry for the people who it is a little bit repetitive. I know that you've listened to this and to my story for many, many times, but nevertheless, for some new people watching, it might be useful. So my personal story is I was born deaf in my left ear. My mom had an infection during pregnancy, and I was never able to hear in my left ear. And up until I was like 3 years old, they found out that there was no hearing in my left ear. And then, I mean, the youthful mistakes I made was like going clubbing quite frequently. So one of the biggest problems with my hearing was that, you know, it got progressively worse because I liked to go partying as a teenager, and back in those days, so like in the early 2000s, we didn't really have, or mid 2000s, we didn't really have earplugs at every club at disposal, so you could just take the earplugs. So eventually I started getting tinnitus, and I've had tinnitus now for, this year is going to be my 16th year. I've had a hearing aid since I was 21, so that's my 14th year. And it is my 6th year as a tinnitus coach. So 6 years ago, I started basically on the inspiration of, I know you guys know that Glenn, he's on my podcast a few times already, and he's a good friend by now, Glenn Schweitzer from Rewiring Tinnitus in the US. I was looking out there and like what's out there. So 6 years ago, I saw that Glenn was doing tinnitus coaching, and I was like, you know what? I really love what he's doing, and Glenn is such a fantastic guy. So back then I was like, okay, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. So Glenn back then started or did tinnitus coaching. We had already done it for a few years, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do the same. And it's been a rocky road, but I've been a tinnitus coach for 6 years now. I've been making YouTube videos for probably 4 years now. And I've built our community and our 12 weeks online program for the last 3 years. So that's kind of like the story about me. If you want to know more about me, I know that people always give me this question: how intense is your tinnitus? Can you hear it over your shower? Can you hear your tinnitus over the hair dryer? Can you hear your tinnitus over a 6-lane street? To which I always say, yes, I can. And today I had a cool session, a cool coaching session with a nice guy from the UK, and his question was, you know, like you can you really hear it all the time and over everything? And I'm like, I can potentially hear it over everything, but I don't perceive it. And then last night, or last 2 nights, we watched, my wife and I, we watched the Dallas Buyers Club, a fantastic movie. I loved the acting from Matthew McConaughey. And, you know, I was like, did I, or was I able to hear, or did I hear my tinnitus in those moments? And then I was like, you know, when I was watching the movie, did I at any point perceive my tinnitus? Yeah, there he is, Tyrone. Yeah, you're the nice guy. Yeah, lovely. Great to see you here. Yep, you're the nice guy. And I was like, no, I don't think I can remember that I did perceive my my tinnitus, and that was, you know, for me, and I can share this honestly with you guys. And that I'm saying constantly, like, it's not about you know, perceiving or not perceiving your tinnitus. It's much more about what your reaction or non-reaction is. And of course, like, you know, when I look back and think about, like, did I even hear my tinnitus then? I'm like, no, I don't think I did, or at least I didn't perceive it, because it was not something that bothered me or kept me from really enjoying that movie, you know. So, but this is like already the end of what the habituation looks like, the habituation journey looks like when you're relatively, you know, at the end of your habituation journey, if you're like not bothered by a tinnitus anymore. I know that we want to focus a little bit early on in the process today. Maybe you're only starting, or you feel like you're in the middle of your habituation journey or something like that, right? Or your tinnitus is, you know, maybe very new as well. So it always depends. And of course, depending on in what stage you find yourself in, it's quite normal to, you know, always be perceiving and hearing your tinnitus. And that is not something that goes to say how well or how likely you are to habituate. So to develop non-bothersome tinnitus, so to completely shift the perspective on your tinnitus. But in my opinion, it's much more what you can do rather than what you cannot do, right? So let me just pull up a couple of the questions here that we had on the community forums. No, not the community forums, but on the posts section. You can always share your questions. When we have these meetings, you can post your questions below in the community forum. And here are some of those questions. All right, we had one question. So one question would be like, I'll translate it from German into English, so then I will answer this question. So now we're going to do the whole Q&A section. So if you have your questions, drop them in the chat below and I will answer them one by one now. First question, that was, I've learned a lot of techniques. I'm going to translate from German because the question was originally from German, from a member of our club in German, but I will answer it here in English, so I'll translate. Question originally is, I've learned a lot of techniques to, you know, improve on bad days. Is there something you can do on good days in order to get good days more often? Is there anything that you can do on good tinnitus days? You know, so like basically like, okay, what are the behaviors that I can do in order to, you know, speed up the amount of good days that I'm actually having? And I think absolutely you can. In the same way that when you're having a bad day and you can, you know, double down on the things that you learn that are good for you on a bad day of, like, you know, either the resource of self-compassion or, you know, learning the proper tools of acceptance and commitment therapy to be able to diffuse from your thoughts and emotions and learn that they are just that and not getting stuck in this vicious cycle and then losing a whole day to that. There's a lot of things that you can do on a good day as well, right? Like, apart from the fact, like, there's two ways to this, right? The one way is like, I would not want you to constantly think that you have to do something on a good day for your tinnitus, so it gets better, or you do something on that good day, because then you're not just simply enjoying your good day or just simply doing what matters in that moment. rather than focusing on your tinnitus. And the other thing is, of course, like if you learn that strategies are working for you. So for example, let's say on a good day you go for a run, just because you're feeling good, then it might be a good idea to include that into your schedule, because we all know that exercise is one of the best antidepressants and it's free out there. And you might want to double down on those things that you feel like on a good day, they help you to stabilize you, right? So I would not particularly say there's like probably things that led to you having the good day, because I mean, it's normal. We're human beings, right? Sometimes we have better days, sometimes we have worse days. That's just absolutely normal. That's just how we function and how we are as human beings. But what I would say is like double down and do what works for you in order to, have like a tool set of things that, where I mean, when the day is not so great, I turn on to my ACT key, or I turn on to, some diffusion techniques, or I mean, for some of you guys who don't know what that is, it might mean, to be like compassionate with yourselves and to give yourself a break about, for example, masking your tinnitus a little bit more than you usually would, right? Or, taking a time out, maybe having a bath or something like that, taking a walk, spoiling yourself a little bit somewhere, like these kind of like little things that can really work in establishing like, okay, what's your baseline when things get tough? It is tough to have tinnitus, and it is tough to have bothersome tinnitus, even more so. For me, it's not tough to have tinnitus because, I mean, I owe my tinnitus to everything what I've been able to create and create a business and a platform that is meaningful and helps people around the world to habituate. And I think that's, for me, something I'm very even grateful for my tinnitus, but I don't expect you guys to be grateful for your tinnitus, absolutely not. I'd expect you to, move in and out, like having tinnitus, having bothersome tinnitus, then getting better little by little, and then moving out of bothersome tinnitus. So what I would say, Michael, to answer your question, and if you want to, I'm happy to talk about it in one of the next coaching sessions as well, talking with you about how to double down on exactly those strategies that do work for you on a good day, and to create routines that make it more likely to have good days more often, right? And automatically, it's difficult to categorize good and bad days, because we know that it's not the intensity of the tinnitus that should be our primary cause of concern or anxiety, but the way we respond to it, and then how that response to it sort of like changes and shifts us and like, gets us into this repetitive negative cycle. But that we should see that, a good day can turn into a bad day very quickly as a human being. Someone can cut you off, someone can steal your wallet or something like that. So a good day can turn into a not so good day very, very quickly. And the other way around as well, right? So we should try to see it a little bit more fluent, but then also know that, it's important to know which things in general, yeah, there you go. Look at that. Leg day in the gym, value-based living at its best, Musti. Give it your all. Leg day, perfect. The one person doing it, going to the gym and watching the live stream. There we are. All right, funny enough. Anyway, so I'm saying like, double down on those things that work for you and tailor individual strategies and see of what you can do on a bad day in order for you to, relate to your reactivity a little bit in a different way. I think that's something that I would recommend, what you can do on a good day. Set yourself a nice kind of structure of what you can achieve and accomplish on a good day, and also know like what you can't achieve and can't accomplish on a bad day, right? Like sometimes it is difficult, it is absolutely normal, but sometimes it's also important to to say like, okay, now I need to do something that's important, valuable for me. All right, Michael back at the gym next week. Love that. Awesome. And Linda said she went to lunch with friends, had a brief moment when he didn't know how I was there, but not my focus. At home, unfortunately, this doesn't work yet. Yeah, I hear that very often. It's because at home we are in an unusual round where the conditioning is a lot stronger, right? So that's also the reason for why a lot of people, when they go on holiday, they tend not to hear their tinnitus or hear it a lot less. But why? It's not that the tinnitus disappears. It's not that the tinnitus is quieter. It's just that you are this much more distracted. So in essence, when you are on holiday, you're a little bit more habituated than when you're not on holiday. And this is really, really, really important, because this shows you one crucial thing. It's not about the loudness, intensity, or pitch, or about anything else of your tinnitus. It's about how you respond to it and how that becomes a conditioned response. So when you're on holiday, when you're not at a place that you continuously perceive your tinnitus and get fed up and have this massive difficulty and this anxiety or fight or flight recurring reaction all the time, then on holiday you have so many things that you are focusing on, new things to discover, you're amazed by the new locations, etc. So it's absolutely normal that on holiday or when you are in a new place, you don't really hear your tinnitus as much. But as soon as you come back into your front door, you go back to your same routines, you go back to the same tinnitus greeting you in the morning, you might even have to go back to work, and then you're like, ugh, and then sure enough, there it is again, right? So it's very, very important to know that it's not the holiday. And even if you were on holiday constantly, then Linda books a holiday for 6 months. That's the next thing that I would say. It's not that now if you go infinitely on holiday that you will never have a problem with your tinnitus again. Because eventually, that conditioned response might also change, right? So it's not your home, it's your conditioned response, and that's good news. Really, it's good news. It's not bad news. The good news is it's a conditioned response that, in like a little experiment, like a holiday or like a lunch, like Linda said, you can break that cycle, right? And when you have these little moments in which you're able to break that cycle of reactivity, where you have a nice lunch with family or friends or a dinner or something, and you have a little bit of a break from your constant reactivity cycle, then you know that it's possible. And you also know that tinnitus doesn't have to be completely gone in order for you to be able to achieve that. That's also super important. So you have evidence here then that it's not the intensity or pitch, because you did hear it later on as well, or maybe you do, maybe you don't, but that the way your brain responds and reacts with this fear or panic reaction or annoyance or anything like that, right? Negative thoughts and emotions pegged to your tinnitus on a repetitive and repeating cycle is the real culprit of your problem. So I've heard a lot of people, like Linda said, okay, should I just go on holiday for 6 months? I'm like, no, that's not going to do the trick either. The important part is to notice your repetitive loops and cycles without judgment, right? Observing them. So in CBT would say observing your thoughts without judgment. Negative thoughts are, in ACT we would say, negative thoughts are absolutely normal. We're human beings, and negative thoughts about our tinnitus is absolutely normal. It's not something that we is, we are different than anyone else because we suffer from tinnitus and it's really difficult. No, everyone suffers, everyone has negative thoughts, but the problem are not the thoughts itself, but the way we respond to them, right? So in essence, if we want to go from bothersome to non-bothersome tinnitus, we have to learn, and that's what CBT and acceptance and commitment therapy teach us in like a strategic way. And towards the end of the session, I want to take, first we finish the Q&A, so if you have questions, please drop them below in the chat. And towards the end of the Q&A, I will share a little bit about the 3-month program so that the people who will see the review will also get to see a little bit of what we have in store for everyone. Currently still working on updating all the resources, throwing old stuff out, putting new things in. So really excited stuff happening in our club, in our community. And but I wanted to say this, right? The most important thing then is, and this is a shout out to Tyrone, is what we developed and elaborated today as well in the coaching session a little bit. It's not about never thinking about your tinnitus again, right? It's about, noticing without judgment that you do and be okay with that, because that's the way your brain can learn that this constant obsession, like the constant anxiety or annoyedness or something with tinnitus, is not actually a problem. If you keep stuck in that loop of like, oh, my tinnitus is annoying me so much, then you're not stuck in a loop with your tinnitus. You're stuck with a loop with your thoughts about your tinnitus, because the thoughts about your tinnitus is producing a certain bodily reaction. So you get stuck in this loop with the thoughts about your tinnitus, not actually with your tinnitus, right? And then of course, when you have this thought and the loop and the anxiety goes up and you're like, oh my God, what is this, right? Then it's very normal for your brain to tune in even more to it. It's quite normal for your brain to say like, hey, what's going on here? Why is this so intense now? And so on and so forth, right? It's normal. So it's not in, we say also in neuroplasticity, people who work in neuroscience, they say the brain does not change in eliminating thoughts. The brain does not change by saying like, hey, I need to not think this thought anymore, that my tinnitus is terrible. No, the brain changes by addition. And that's the conditioning that we've talked about early on as well, is the brain will not change its conditioned response to tinnitus compared with a holiday situation or your home situation by you wishing it was different. It will also not change if you constantly go on holiday. It will change when you come to learn that your thoughts and feelings towards your tinnitus are absolutely normal. How could they not be normal, right? Because you really have been going through a really bothersome and really difficult time with your tinnitus. So that's absolutely normal, right? So the important thing is that you learn that, these negative thoughts and feelings are normal part of you wanting to spare yourself of the pain caused and associated by your tinnitus. And therefore, you get sucked into this vicious cycle of thinking that, if I could just get rid of these thoughts and feelings, then I would never, or the first thing is, if I could get rid of my tinnitus, then I would not have these thoughts and feelings anymore. But that's not true, right? Feelings of anxiety, sadness, anger, frustration, they are a normal human range of emotions. They will be there even long after you've habituated to your tinnitus, right? And that's really the chicken and the egg question. What's first? A tinnitus annoyance? Or were you even annoyed by your tinnitus at the start when you dealt with it? Or were you just like, oh, what's this? Maybe if it's not gone in a couple of weeks or days, then I need to get it checked out by ENT or something. Yeah, maybe that's something, right? But I've had people here, for example, Malcolm, it's on the success stories playlist here on this YouTube channel. He shared that he wasn't bothered by his tinnitus until he started going to an audiologist and an ENT. And they saying there's nothing we can do, that just blew his anxiety out of proportion, right? Before, he was never really bothered by it. And I always tell the story about the construction workers, right? Construction workers, a lot of them have tinnitus. A lot of construction workers have tinnitus. So the old guy tells the new guy who's just developed tinnitus, like, he's like, hey man, like, you know what, last night I couldn't sleep so well. There's this new thing I have in my ear and it's like ringing loud and stuff. And then the guy is like, yeah, man, most of us have it. It's normal. If you work in construction, there's so much noise around. I mean, yes, we should be protecting our ears, but it's normal. Some of us get it, some of us don't. Don't sweat it. It's normal. Don't be worried about it, right? So that's a completely different way of relating to tinnitus, because it's normalized. It's like, okay, well then, if you guys don't worry about it, I don't think I have to worry about it either, right? So it's really, really important to focus on that. And now I wanted to talk about, first of all, I wanted to pull up something that I had in the club that I wanted to read that I think, wait 1 second, guys. Where's I had one response here in the club that I wanted to read to you guys, which was quite nice, I think. Yeah. And the thing is also with the forums and the scary stories is always the same, right? People who afterwards habituate or feel much better, like they never come back to delete those questions and say like, oh, I have habituated finally, like I'm doing so much better. No one goes back, right? They don't care about those forums anymore. Those forums are though just like for uncontrolled venting, and it's not like, yeah, it's not like our platform, for example, where, I mean, all the people in here who are probably on the platform can confirm this, where we support each other within a safe space where you'll be guided on what resources to use when your tinnitus is difficult, right? And how to constructively say what your current problem is, and then how to get feedback on that and how to resolve the situation in order to make progress, right? Very, very crucial and important. But we have another, I have tinnitus and periodically fullness in the ears. Digital Forward asked this question. I think due to Eustachian tube disorder, which makes my T temporarily worse. Is this common under people with tinnitus? I wake up a lot at night with vivid dreams since my T got worse. Even though I sleep between 6 to 7 hours, I experience brain fog, which makes it seem my brain is tired, but my body is not. Right, so fullness of the ears, and if you have eustachian tube disorder, that's of course something that should be checked out by your doctor, because sometimes it's like allergies, sometimes you have a cold or something like that, which really does a physical block on the ear canal. Then obviously that in and of itself can learn to can inhibit the transmission of the signal to the auditory cortex, and therefore interference with air and stuff can make vibrations and stuff and cause sounds. So of course, if you have an underlying condition like eustachian tube dysfunction, which would be mostly like lower tone frequencies, etc., right? Then there is a physical reason for why there's an obstruction in your ear canal, and once you get that figured out, it's very likely that those symptoms of sounds also get a lot better. Same with the fullness of the ears, if you really do have eustachian tube disorder, but that's something to figure out by your doctor, and probably most likely an ENT. So that's what I would do. But it can be relatively common among people with tinnitus. I mean, we know, statistically speaking, most people with tinnitus deal with hearing loss based tinnitus. So most people who actually do have tinnitus because of the hearing loss associated to it, which would not be the eustachian tube thing, but they can go together, right? You can have tinnitus, hearing loss based tinnitus, onset, for example, for a few years, and then you can also get eustachian tube dysfunction problems, and then there's another layer of tinnitus on this, right? So it's very normal. It's not something like abstract or anything like that. I would just like go and have it checked out by a sometimes that's not something that should really affect you too much. If you do go to the ENT for them to check it out and see what your ETD is and how to remedy it. All right. Yes. And the brain fog, yeah, man, like it's difficult, right? Getting a little bit of anxiety and, having this condition right now, which really, takes a lot of time and space in your life, and, you're just not at your top game. Yes, it's quite normal, right? That you, even though you sleep a normal amount of hours and your brain needs to process a lot, it's quite normal, I would say, for you to, not be completely rested. Your nervous system is working very hard when you have tinnitus, when you're fighting it a lot, and when you are very often in like a constant struggle with tinnitus, right? Flight or flight. That's very difficult for your nervous system and your body overall, for your overall energy levels, right? So I wouldn't say that it's too weird that you have brain fog during those periods of time. And I would, approach it with a little bit more of, compassion and self-compassion, to say like, hey man, this is a difficult time right now. It's quite normal that I'm actually, not at the top of my game. And, just identify the areas where you think you really need to be at the top of your game. And the rest of the things I've learned through my burnout last year, most of the things we can do with 60 to 80% of our energy. Probably not, designing a new SpaceX rocket that will not kill everyone on board. But most things we can do with 60 to 80% of our capabilities, right? So to, for example, go take up the trash or write some emails. Most of these repetitive tasks, like we don't need to be at the top of our game. We don't always need to feel fantastic. Instagram and social media are lying to us that everyone's always feeling great. It's normal to be human, to struggle with things, to have difficulties, to have difficult thoughts and feelings, to have negative emotions. And Michael, because you say sometimes the chit chat scares you, see it as little exposure game, right? It can be scary, but you need to learn that there's nothing scary about it, apart from the fact that your brain turns it into something scary because it thinks maybe here's something that could trigger my anxiety as well again, right? That's what your brain tells you. So your brain says, don't expose yourself to it because you might get anxious again, mate. But it's not their tinnitus. And the good part is to learn that, it's very, very important that it's absolutely possible to expose yourself to this as well, to these thoughts and feelings, and to that, I don't know how to handle it with other people on board and stuff. And if I get more involved in my tinnitus, I know that people sometimes say, I don't want to join your program because I don't want to, confront my tinnitus even more. And I'm like saying, that's not a good idea. You should confront it full time and full on. And that's the way to go through tinnitus and go towards a non-bothersome tinnitus, because you're actually exposing yourself to the tinnitus and to all the thoughts and feelings that come with it, to learn that you have nothing to fear from it. And then your body says, hey, it's not really important for me to constantly be focusing on it. And one final thing before I talk to you a little bit about the 12-week program, before we get a little bit off track here, Connor asked, does anyone here have it but doesn't have hearing loss? That's a very tricky topic, guys. Very tricky topic. Why? Most audiograms at the ENT or GP are only measured up to maximum 8 kilohertz. The human range of hearing can go up to 20 kilohertz. So to say I have no hearing loss is I don't have clinically relevant hearing loss. I don't have hearing loss that's relevant for my day-to-day speech understanding. So I don't have a hearing loss that I would need to be treating with a hearing aid or any other medical device, right? So it doesn't mean that we do not have any hearing loss at all, because having hearing loss is normal. So when we're born, we have the whole range of hearing until maybe up to 20 kilohertz. So the older we get, the more we lose in these highest of frequencies, right? When you were younger, you were able to hear a dog whistle. Now you can't hear a dog whistle anymore. And sometimes it's even difficult to hear the birds. When I take my hearing aid out, I can't hear birds at all, right? So it's very, very important to know for a fact that you can have hearing loss that's not showing up in a normal, typical audiogram at your ENT or your audiologist. And everyone's hearing loss is individual, right? And so for some hearing loss, there is an indication of doing something about that hearing loss, for example, with a hearing aid. And in some hearing loss cases where we have no clinical hearing loss, where the hearing frequencies from 10 hertz to 8 kilohertz are perfectly in the normal range, and then we don't need to do anything. Doesn't mean we don't have hearing loss at all. But yes, absolutely, Connor and Michael, to finish this off, to make things even more complicated, you can have potentially zero hearing loss at all and still have tinnitus. Then you can talk, for example, about pulsatile or somatic tinnitus. So tinnitus coming from the neck or back, or from grinding your teeth, or tinnitus coming from pulsatile, so veins that run through close to the auditory cortex and the nerves, and the pulsating sound that you will then hear. So we make things a little bit more complicated, but there are many reasons for why people have tinnitus. Often, or in more than 99% of the cases, they are benign, right? So even if they're ETD, which you could potentially do something about, eustachian tube dysfunction, hearing loss-based tinnitus, TMJ-based tinnitus, and all of those, in most of them you can do something. But what you can always do, wow, this is such a smooth segue into talking about the 12-week program for a couple of minutes before I need to leave. In most instances, and this is what we can do in all instances, we can learn to live with tinnitus without being bothered by it. So we can learn to not change tinnitus, to not get rid of it. But I always say, if you learn to not react to tinnitus, have no negative thoughts and feelings about your tinnitus, right? Not in the slightest, right? Then is that not as good as having a cure, right? If I, for example, tell you, I watched a movie last night, can't remember if I heard my tinnitus at all, had a fantastic time with my wife watching the movie, and I had no idea, right? Well, so I think what we are all looking for is not to not have tinnitus anymore. What we all are looking for is not to experience these negative thoughts and feelings that come with our tinnitus and that keep us stuck in the loop. So this process is something that takes time. And if you guys who aren't yet in the club, you can check it out at www.mytinnitus.club. I've designed a 12-week program that's currently, it was previously an 8-week course. I now amended it to a 12-week course with lots of resources, weekly group coaching sessions, even the option to individually get coached by me. So we have different plans, membership pricing plans. But the most important thing about the program is this 3-month approach that we take. The first month is about understanding and softening your reaction. It's about understanding how and why you react to tinnitus the way you do. Why do you have all these thoughts and feelings about your tinnitus? Why does your tinnitus constantly make you feel like this? Very, very important, right? Because it's not the sound that produces this emotional reaction. It is the way you relate to the sound. Do you have a negative reaction to your hairdryer? Probably not. To your vacuum cleaner, to your car, to your wife or partner, yeah, maybe sometimes. But most of the time you don't have a reaction to these sounds. So your reaction to the tinnitus as a sound is a learned reaction that is unnecessary. It doesn't need to be that way. You don't need to react that way. So, oh, sorry guys, I just, all right. So you need to learn what to do in order to not be carried away by your thoughts and feelings around your tinnitus, to understand and soften. Then in the second month, to implement change, to learn how to implement techniques of acceptance and commitment therapy in order to retrain the way your brain responds to your tinnitus, and to completely learn a new way of how your brain, learns to say, okay, what's the threat level with my tinnitus? And then the third month is about implementing change, managing setbacks, and really putting it all together. Because it's really important that you know that this is not a linear progress journey. It's something that will have its ups and downs. But something that we also talked about today, every up contains a down, and every down contains an up. Because every down is a new opportunity to expose yourself to the difficulty and to learn to manage it a little bit better. So that next time, like I've been able to manage this, I'll get through another hump of these, right? And every up is a significant step forward to show you that you can absolutely live your life, enjoy it, and have a good life despite the presence of your tinnitus, right? And that's the thing that we want to do in the third month with you. So if you want to check it out, if you look for any of the resources, then you can go to mytinnitus.club, or I've created a little special quick link, habituate.online. So Habute, right? Habituate. Was that right? .online. Whew. Difficult to be spelling live on YouTube, but I hope I made it. It's not my mother tongue, by the way, so you guys forgive me if any of my English comes across in a weird way for you guys. I don't want to hear anything about pronunciations because everyone's different. Some people like tinnitus, some people like tinnitus. I decided for tinnitus a long time ago, and I'm sticking with it, no matter what people say. No matter if you're from the US or UK, I'm sticking with tinnitus. You guys can call it whatever you want. And that's it. We have what? We have Arts of Life. How can I reach you, sir? I'm from India. Very, very nice to make your connaissance, sir, from India. You can reach me here on my YouTube channel and simply leave me a comment. You can also ask your questions in these live streams. We do the next one at start of May again. So we'll do a monthly live stream here on YouTube, a Q&A session, and you're more than welcome to post under any of my videos any questions that you might have. Of course, you can join us at mytinnitus.club in the community for group coaching, etc., and also, get access to all the resources or ask the bunch of people that are in here. So you can access that as well. And then, yes, of course, I also do one-on-one coaching, so you guys know that. Everyone who's in the club gets a 10% discount on all coaching programs. So once you are inside the coaching program to the club, you can get 10% discount on all the one-on-one coaching programs that I have, which are a little bit waiting list vibe right now because, my burnout situation last year, I only take on so and so many clients every single month. I have a little bit of a waiting list, but I try to accommodate everyone within a few weeks. And that's it from me. Are there hearing aids for over 8,000 kilohertz? Yes. So that's another thing, guys. There are hearing aids for that, but they only go until maybe 10,000 kilohertz. Anything beyond that is also not pleasant for you to hear. Like, honestly. You don't need to, and you don't want to hear that on a constant basis. So the more expensive the hearing aids, that's what they usually do. The more expensive the hearing aids, the higher the frequency band, right? So the manufacturers say like, okay, we do up to 8,000 with the cheaper ones. We do up to 8.5 with a medium price segment, or 9. And then the most expensive ones, they get the full range up to 10,000 kilohertz. So, sorry guys. So that when you do go to the opera, or when you do go to a violin concert, that you have all the nuances in there. But honestly, like if you want to just, play a very loud, very low tone on YouTube, and then you see what 8,000 hertz sounds like, or 10,000 hertz. And it's not really important to hear these sounds in terms of hearing them in like, pitches or something, or screams, but they're speech relevant, right? So 8,000 decibels, 8,000 hertz, 8 kilohertz is, for example, the speech understanding, speech. The S's and the sh, they make the difference between, this is what hearing loss sounds like, they make the difference between, right? That's what the hearing aids do with speech understanding. So for me it sounds like this, and I take my hearing aid out, and it sounds like this when I put my hearing aid back in. Yeah, thank you for that. I know it was a hilarious demonstration of what hearing loss might sound like for someone, but it's actually, yeah, it's something that's always have been on my mind recently quite a lot as well, because I've been out a little bit more and realizing like how difficult it is with my hearing situation to be out and about, where deaf in one ear and having a bad ear and quite high tinnitus in the other ear. It's like, it's not easy for my brain to process all that information. So, give yourself a little bit of a credit that you're handling this, and this is difficult for every brain to get used to, but you will absolutely, right? So you will get better, you will habituate, and I like to proud myself of being a manufacturer. I always say I'm in the manufacturing business. I manufacture tinnitus success stories. Also quite a cheesy one, but I like it. So if you want to, let me help you and manufacture your tinnitus success story as well. And as I said, you can reach us and reach me at habituate.online. You can join our program at mytinnitus.club. And I hope that this live stream has been useful for you as usual. I wish you all the best from my heart to yours from wherever you're tuning in from. I wish that you are having a good week. I see you in the next live stream next month. And thanks all for tuning in today. I hope that you are well. And on Friday, I have a new video coming out with Petra. She has already been on here in the channel. So if you haven't watched that yet, there's a playlist. It's called Tinnitus Success Stories. So if you want to check out that playlist, Petra is on there and she shares her story. And this Friday, so in 2 days, I'll release another long form interview with Petra and some nice, cool additions to her story. And Linda, yes, absolutely, my pleasure. I'll see you tomorrow in the community meeting. Our community meeting is always Thursday at 7 p.m. So 2 hours later than this stream started. All right, guys, I'll see you. See you all. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye. Bye.